You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona, and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Hey, Kirk. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey. Good. Guess what this episode is?
I know.
It's episode 40.
Woo!
Yay!
40. So exciting.
We made it to 40.
Can you believe it?
Thank you to everybody who's listened through all these. And we got a bunch more to do. Let's keep going.
We're officially a middle-aged podcast.
Like, does that imply that we're gonna die at episode 80 or something? I don't like the implication of that one bit.
Yeah, this thing in my head didn't actually work out. Never mind.
Sounded so much better in your head.
Okay. I am starting us off this week. And as we all know, Rachel loves especially to talk about Australian wildlife.
That's true.
And why not? The animals.
Not on purpose.
It's totally on purpose, isn't it? But the animals and plants of Australia are very cool and often seem strange to people from other parts of the world. Those marsupials, the monotremes like the platypus, eucalyptuses, numerous deadly snakes and spiders. And a lot of these types of organisms are simply not found in other parts of the world. Or, like marsupials, they dominate in Australia in a way that they don't in other places.
Right. They're not competing with placental mammals.
Right.
There.
But why is it that Australia is so different? So that is what I'm going to be talking about.
Is it because everything there is upside down?
Yes, that is why.
Oh, well.
Yep.
Mystery solved.
Yep.
All right.
I don't need to talk about it.
Next, I think it's me, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. We'll go to break. No, go ahead. Tell us why.
Okay. So there are, in the world, 8 large regions called biogeographic realms. So between any 2 regions, there's a noticeable difference in the general types of animals that occur. And these realms are usually divided by kind of obvious barriers of geography and or climate. So like the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Sahara, the Himalaya, the Isthmus of Panama. There is one place where the barrier is not so obvious. Between the Indo-Malayan realm, formerly known as the Oriental, and the Australasian realm. So the Australasian realm includes Australia, New Zealand, and New Guinea. And the Indo-Malayan realm includes all of the Indian subcontinent, southern China, Indochina, and it stretches about halfway across the Indonesian archipelago. Okay. Now, Indonesia, that archipelago consists of thousands of islands, and most of them are separated by less than 100 miles of water. And an interesting thing that happens is that in the Indochinese Peninsula and across the western part of Indonesia, animals are kind of what you would consider more familiar Eurasian types. You got your leopards, your tigers, your monkeys, your rhinoceroses, squirrels, pheasants, woodpeckers, hornbills. As you head eastward, there's a pretty abrupt shift, and it happens along a line, like an imaginary line, if you draw between, so with Borneo and Bali on the western side of the line and Sulawesi and Lombok on the eastern side of the line. So like Borneo and Sulawesi are neighboring islands and Bali and Lombok are neighboring islands. So if you can imagine this line going kind of northward between them.
Okay.
So on the eastern side of this line, suddenly many of these Eurasian species are absent. Your large mammals disappear. Most weakly flying birds like pheasants, they're gone. Anything that has a hard time crossing water. And there are a lot fewer types of species. And you also start finding a few Austronesian marsupials in some remote habitats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So obviously, many people had noticed this difference. Undoubtedly, the local people had noticed, and also some prior European explorers. However, the first Western scientist to attempt an explanation for this difference is the famous Alfred Russel Wallace.
Oh, yes, Wallace.
Yes, also known as the co-discoverer of the theory of evolution.
Right.
He was the guy he wrote to Charles Darwin. He's like, listen to this amazing theory that I've come up with. And Darwin was like, oh God, the thing I've been working on for the last 20 years, I better go and publish.
Right.
Oh no. Yep. Sounds
Anyway, Wallace did years of fieldwork in Southeast Asia, and he was the greatest authority at the time on the worldwide distribution of species. So it was a very curious thing he noticed. But, these straits between these islands are not any wider or more treacherous than the other nearby islands.
Mm-hmm.
So Wallace's explanation, which is pretty accurate given the relatively primitive understanding of geology at the time, he proposed that everything west of the line had at one time been part of the Asian continent, and everything east of the line had once been part of the Australian continent.
Wow.
Whoa.
Good. What an amazing
That's at least
insight.
Yes.
like 60 years before plate tectonics was even thought about.
Indeed.
Before.
Yeah. And they knew that glaciers had happened, but they didn't really know the extent of glaciation or exactly where they had gone or what exactly had happened. At any rate, the line is now called Wallace's Line. And to be honest, Wallace's explanation was mostly but not entirely correct. So everything west of the line had in fact been part of Asia. So during the Ice Age, when sea levels were much, much lower, basically Borneo and Bali are on the edge of the continental shelf there. And actually a similar thing happens as you head westward from Australia and New Guinea. And there's another corresponding line, which is called Lydekker Line, after Richard Lydekker, an English naturalist of a later generation than Wallace. So Australia and New Guinea and some of these eastern islands were part of a much bigger kind of Australian continent than we have today. Mm-hmm. So then there's this area in the middle, which is in between Wallace's Line in the west and Lydekker's Line in the east. And so it's this set of islands that have a really pretty limited biological diversity. They're only populated by organisms that can cross water. So strongly flying birds, insects that can be blown there on a storm or can fly there, seeds that can float in the water or the air. And at the western end, the organisms are more Asian, and then there's a gradual change. And on the eastern end, they're more Australian. And they kind of meet in the middle and overlap. So this in-between area is now called Wallacea, also after Wallace.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, and these islands are just basically surrounded by deep straits that remained filled with water even when those sea levels were so much lower during the Ice Age. So those were the forever islands surrounded by the much bigger continents than we have today.
Yeah.
And all of those animals that were on the continents could basically walk, and then eventually the seas rose and created the islands we have today. So it's really pretty cool. And this is also the region that shows the first evidence of seafaring in humans. So we can kind of tie back to human history here. So Australia was settled, at least Australia and New Guinea were settled by modern humans at least 50,000 years ago, possibly as much as 65,000 years ago, which is a really long time ago. This is well before the quote-unquote Cro-Magnons of Europe. And they almost certainly did this by island hopping on whatever kind of watercraft they had eastward from the area.
Oh yeah, when you look at a map, it's just you can absolutely picture. There's so many islands, and
it's just mind-boggling, honestly.
But it's pretty amazing to imagine such ancient human ancestors undertaking such journeys. But they did. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so Wallace's Line. That was what I have to tell you today.
That's
Great,
cool.
thanks.
Yeah. Next, we'll after the break, we'll have Kirk.
Strange by Nature podcast is brought to you by listeners like you who have joined the Society of Strange, our membership group on over at patreon.com/strangebynature. Society of Strange members can join at one of 3 different membership levels and help support the show and also get some fun stuff like water bottle stickers or access to super secret content. So a thank you to those who have joined already to help make this podcast possible. If you haven't joined yet, we'll see you soon over at the Society of Strange at patreon.com/strangebynature. See you soon. So when I was researching last week's topic on birds using smell for migration,
Right.
I came upon just an awesome article in Audubon magazine by Nancy Averett that was written in 2014 called Birds Can Smell and One Scientist is Trying to Prove It. And it's a great article. I highly recommend checking it out as it tells the story of scientist Gabrielle Nevitt and how she spent her career devising experiments trying to find ways to show people that birds really do have an amazing sense of smell. And I didn't end up using anything really from that article because it was more about birds smelling than about what I wanted to talk about, which was birds using smell for migration.
Right.
But this week, I did want to take a minute to share an amusing anecdote from that article and also sort of a possible aha moment I had while reading it. So Averett tells a story about how when Nevitt took her first Antarctic cruise, and let's be clear, this was a research cruise, not a pleasure cruise.
Right.
She submitted her supply lists of needs to the National Science Foundation contractor, and one item gave him some pause. So she needed huge kites, and he's like, yeah, sure, no problem, check.
Why not?
Like,
Big
all
old
right.
kites. Let's go.
How about some really strong smelling like krill scent
Okay.
juice or whatever? And he's like, yep, no
Sure.
problem. Great, I can get that. She's like, great, okay. Now I need hundreds of boxes of super absorbent tampons. And yeah, he apparently
Sure.
stammered and was like,
A man stammered in the face of tampons?
I don't think I can get those for you, ma'am. So
It's like,
she had to secure those herself. And
oh, that's just
so yeah. But the reason she needed them was either brilliant or crazy. And like we
Both.
talked about last week,
Our favorite things, it's both.
probably,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So everyone at the time knew that birds couldn't smell. So her idea, though, was I think people were probably like, "What on earth are you doing?" She decided to she was going to go out to sea on this research vessel, soak the tampons in the smell of krill,
yes.
Gross.
and then attach them to the kites.
I love this.
And then fly the kites off the back of this this boat, the deck of this boat. And the idea was that this smell would then be lofted up into the air, hopefully to attract birds. Because the
Yeah.
birds would have no reason to come to these kites or think anything of them. And everyone, of course, knew that this was a completely preposterous idea because birds can't smell.
What year was this again,
right?
Kirk?
Clearly.
Oh boy, I want to say, I didn't write it down. It was like 1991 or 95, somewhere in there. It was in the
Even
90s.
better.
Yeah. So she got him up there, and sure enough, once she set her kites aloft, she attracted dozens of petrels, albatross, and shearwaters who were looking for the source of the krill
Thing
smell.
smells delicious. Where's
Yeah,
lunch?
so everyone had
Smells like lunch.
everyone had basically assumed that birds used other methods to search for food, but it turns out they were actually smelling it, which I think is so cool.
It's so cool, but it also makes sense.
Yes.
Exactly. It totally makes sense. But everyone's like, well, it can't
see
be.
it,
It just
then
can't
why
be.
not smell it?
And in all fairness, I think that was partially because people thought that birds' brains are so small, there was no room for like the what's it called, the olfactory bulb
Yeah.
to like smell that. But the experiment was so successful and attracted so many birds. She was actually afraid they was going to get tangled in all the strings and drowned, and she had to take all the kites down and had to just do her experiment in a different way because the
Right.
kites turned out to be too dangerous and it was too successful. But the article went on to describe sort of this another aha moment she had on a research cruise the next year that then allowed her to figure out exactly how the birds track the krill through the ocean and to know like where to go to find them. So, like I said, I don't want to give it all away. It's a really great article and everyone should go and read it. But part of the reason I mention it, though, is that other than being a great read, is that I also had a light bulb or like an aha moment of my own when reading it. So this very same article describes the 2008 research of postdoc Danielle Whitaker, who investigated the smelling ability of juncos. And again, everyone thought she was totally just off her rocker for
Insane,
wanting to do
yes.
this. Well, it turns out you may know that birds have like a preening gland that makes oil the
Yeah.
birds use to keep feathers in good condition, right? So
Right.
it's located at the base of the tail. And when she was analyzing the smell in the oil from juncos, she realized that males and females smell different. And that which is interesting enough. It's like, well, why would they smell different? She was able to actually show a correlation between how strong the smell is and how successful they are at nesting.
Oh, wow.
And so we often talk about how colorful a bird is as a judgment of how fit it is. And mate selection is often based on fitness because you want your nest to be successful. And we do know that birds absolutely do select mates based on color. But it may be that birds actually use smell to choose their mates. And that smell is an even better predictor of who's going to be the best to mate with. So that is
Whoa.
so cool. And when I read that, I not only was I just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, I got really excited because it may actually tie into one of my all-time favorite animal facts that I've wanted to share on the podcast, but I couldn't find any way to share it because it just was like a one-sentence fact and I didn't have anything to put with it.
Right.
But it may all be come together in my brain now. See, I'm a licensed bird bander, and so I have the honor of getting to catch, band, and release songbirds as part of research programs. And in doing so, I end up holding on to a lot of wild birds.
Right.
And one of the interesting things someone pointed out to me very early on when I started out as a bird bander is that if you ever get an American goldfinch in your hand, which I realize most of our listeners will never have the opportunity to do, but if you're holding on to a goldfinch and you sniff it, goldfinches smell exactly like maple syrup.
What?
That's so weird.
What?
Yeah, like
What?
I can't make a whole episode out of that, but it's this cool. My favorite nature fact is that goldfinches smell like maple syrup. It is uncanny, and it's amazing. And I've talked to tons of people, and no one has any idea, like, or any plausible reason why goldfinches should smell like maple syrup. I can't find research articles on it. I can't find anything about maple syrup goldfinches. It's just one of these things that you happen to know if you've ever sniffed a goldfinch.
Have you sniffed a goldfish?
As one does.
I have, yeah, because I'm a bird bander.
course.
Someone was like, "Oh, you got a goldfinch? You should smell it."
Hey.
And I'm like,
hey.
"Why would I smell it?" They're like, "Just smell it."
I want to sniff goldfinch, Kirk.
Well, come help me bird band sometime, and maybe we can set that up.
I'm always down for that.
So, now I don't know this, but my assumption has always been that the smell is the compound solotan, which is an aromatic found in a number of foods, including imitation maple syrup. It's what gives imitation maple syrup its
I'm
smell.
pretty sure it's also in celery because I feel like my hands always smell like maple.
It's.
After I cut
I know
up
it's
celery.
in a number of things. It's in. Is it the fenugreek?
Yeah, fenugreek.
Yeah. So there's a number of things that have this compound in there.
I'm just going to
So-
sit here in shock that your hands smell like maple after you cut celery.
Check it
Well,
out
don't
next
try
time
that
you
too,
cut
I
up some
guess.
celery. Tell me if I'm crazy.
I've been thinking about this. Like, why would goldfinches smell like maple syrup? And I always figured it was just like some sort of fluke resulting from their diet, right? But once I was reading this article, I realized that it very could well be that the smell is from their preening oil, and it likely is from something in their diet. But the goldfinches themselves perhaps can smell that smell. And as I was reading about the research on the juncos and that the birds could be using this as a smell to pick mates, it really got me thinking, like, is this smell of goldfinches has something to do with them, how they smell to each other for mating purposes, which would be super cool. So I don't know that anyone has looked at, the connection between the maple syrup smell in goldfinches and it being a measure of their reproductive fitness. But if you happen to be an ornithologist looking for an amazing research opportunity, this could be it. Please let me know. I need to know the answer to this question.
I want to know.
This is now sort of my leading hypothesis for why goldfinches smell like maple syrup, and I super hope someone more talented than I am in designing experiments can take this up and find out if there's a connection between the smell and reproductive success. So it could be that maple syrup is essentially like the best smelling cologne in the goldfinch world.
That would be so amazing if we could actually get some research on that.
That'd be
So
cool.
please, someone who's looking for a good project, take this up because I really want to know if you can, correlate the maple syrup smell with reproductive fitness. So that's what I have for you this week from the strange world of nature.
Thank you,
Truly.
Kirk.
After the break, you're welcome. Go eat some pancakes, and after the break, we will be back with a story from Rachel.
So we're back, and for our 40th episode, I'm doing a little something new for the intro of what animal I'm going to be covering.
Okay.
So buckle up.
Do you have a song for us?
When you go take a dive down the reef, you will find a moray.
Oh, no.
They can swim, they can glide, but they'd rather hide in the coral. So don't...
No, it's great. It's great. Keep going.
So don't put your hand in, or you might lose some skin to the moray. That's it. I'm gonna talk
Okay,
about
that's
the
enough.
green moray eels.
Please stop.
I will say one of our patrons.
Rachel's
actually-
album comes out in
20 never.
Yeah.
I will say one of our patrons dared me to do that, so thanks, Amanda, for that. Generally speaking, I try to keep things like not like that, but hey, it's fine. Anyway, so green moray eels. I'm going with green moray eels rather than just moray eels in general because there are about 200 species of moray eels. Almost all of which are marine, right? I didn't think there were that many, but there are.
Yeah.
So green moray eels are found in the Western Atlantic Ocean, generally from like New Jersey, Bermuda, northern Gulf of Mexico, all the way down to Brazil. They can be found at depths of the ocean of about 130 feet. They prefer to be in coral reefs for multiple reasons. They are opportunistic predators. Their length is 2.5 meters or 8.2 feet.
That's big.
They're big.
That's
Oh,
very
yeah,
large.
they're big.
That is almost 2 Rachels.
Thank you.
And so it's a slong. It's that slong. Okay. It's
So what now?
nope.
I mean, well, anyway, go on.
I'm
I won't
redoing
go
it.
there.
Nope.
It's a long, slender eel. It is a true eel with a dorsal fin that connects from behind its head all the way down its body, connecting with the caudal and anal fins all the way down through its tail. It has a face with 2 nostrils that are visible. And they have an upper jaw with 2 full rows of teeth. While the bottom...
Oh, yeah, they do.
There's just a single row of teeth. Oftentimes, if you see them in like an aquarium, or if you happen to be scuba diving and you run into a moray eel, like, first of all, congratulations. They're very, very shy
Elusive?
animals.
Yeah.
Elusive. But oftentimes you'll see them with their mouth open and it looks like they're being menacing. What they're really doing is they're taking in water so they can get it through their gills and passing it through, so they're actually getting oxygen to their body. But what's extra crazy, they have something that is called a pharyngeal jaw.
Yes. Yes. They sure do.
And they are the only vertebrate known, they're the only fish, the only vertebrate known to have this. So the jaw that you see is the outer jaw, and that's the jaw that grips the prey. And then there's another set of jaws in their throat that shoots forward to bite the target, the prey, and pull it in.
Just like the alien in the Alien movies.
The alien. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, man. That is
Horrifying. Yeah.
Who wants to go for a swim after this? Anyone?
No. I saw pictures and like a small video of it, and it's as horrifying as you think it would be, honestly.
Well, I tell you what, Rachel, as bonus content to our patrons, after the episode, I'm going to tell a story about one of my coworkers
You worked at
who
an
was
aquarium.
a green moray eel. No, who was a green moray eel. And I'll tell you a story about those jaws. But you have to be a patron to hear it.
Oh,
I can't wait.
I can't either. So that's absolutely insane. Just having a whole other set of jaws just to come forward. You already have 3 rows of teeth. Why not have a whole other jaw set, you know?
Yeah, why not?
So they are like a pretty decent green. I have green hair. They're a little darker than my hair. So they're like a true green color. And the reason why they're green is both gross and just weird. So their skin color, the skin color of a moray eel, a green moray eel, is a brownish gray. Okay, that's what their skin color is. But they're covered with a mucus layer.
Yum.
Right. That is actually yellow. And this protects it from like parasites and bacteria, especially since they're in crevices a lot. But because it's yellow, when it interacts with the brownish gray of their skin, it turns them green. So that's why they're green.
So that's not why your hair is green,
That is not
right?
why my hair is green, no.
Oh, phew. All right. Thought that mucus wash was really working for you.
No.
Thanks for that image, Kirk.
Gross.
That's what I'm here for.
So one other thing I wanted to touch on is that they'll lay their eggs at a spawning site, mainly because they are very solitary animals. They don't have many natural prey. They tend to be the top of the food chain in the coral reefs where they call home. But they'll lay the females will lay eggs at the spawning site, and males will come and fertilize them. And then once they're fertilized, eventually they'll hatch. But they hatch into larvae.
Oh.
And will go through metamorphosis
Wow.
to become an adult.
Well, I guess now that you mention it, other eels do that.
Yeah.
Eels in general are bizarre as all get.
Yeah, they are
Eels
very strange
so
fish.
strange.
I'm pretty sure, like, I'm pretty sure it's eels that scientists are not really sure what they look like as a larva, but I might be mistaking it with another animal species.
This would actually be a good future
ones.
episode. I could talk about eels. I think it's there's a little more to it than that.
There absolutely
just a little bit more.
But yeah, I really wanted to just sing a little song and talk about the Moray Eels with you all today. So that's what I have for us today. For our 40th
Wonderful.
episode.
Thank you so much. Woo!
Yay!
Go 40.
Well, thank you all for joining us this week. See you next week, everybody.
Talk to you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.